So these topics are getting a little bit strange to be talking about on the channel, and honestly, I never thought I'd be talking about tariffs on my Nintendo channel at that, let alone on any of my gaming channels. But here we are. It's a very weird world we live in 2025, but we need to discuss it because I want to talk about what are the possible implications on the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders. What's the possible implications on, of course, the pricing, which is a big discussion. So if you do enjoy this kind of content, lots of Nintendo content from news to guides, walkthroughs, gameplays, different things like that, be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you don't like this content, obviously let me know what you dislike so I can improve the content in the future. But we've been hammering out a lot of different videos lately, and I hope you guys are not too sick of me yet. I'm getting a little sick of me, I'll be honest. But anyways, so what are we talking about today? So essentially, This is more of a political news thing that's going to get into the actual news. It's not political in terms of controversial. Well, if we go deeper into it, maybe. But that is regarding the tariffs, right? So if you haven't heard, the United States administration was imposing a bunch of tariffs on a bunch of different countries, including Vietnam, which is primarily where the Switch 2 is being produced. And now what's happening is that the administration is saying, well, we're going to put a 90-day pause on these, and so there's going to be a 10% reciprocal tariff in place instead of, I think it was like 75%. I don't know what it was exactly. The number was pretty large. I think it was 50 to 75% or something like that. So there's a 90-day pause. That's 3 months. The Switch 2 is supposed to come out in 2 months. So what does that mean? So there's a few different things I want to talk about what that potentially means, and I want to give you guys as much thorough thinking as possible. I've seen some YouTubers out there that are like, hey, the Switch 2 pre-orders are back on, and and blah blah blah, the price is not going to change. And it's like, we don't know that for sure yet until Nintendo says something. Like right now at the time of recording this, by the time you guys see this video, maybe the pre-orders are back up, and we'll be making another video probably discussing that. But right now, at the time of recording this, which is currently 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 9th of April. So today was supposed to be the day that we had pre-orders. Nothing of that sort has been announced by Nintendo. There's no rumors even. People are just making the assumption. So is it a right assumption to make? Possibly. What could this mean? Well, 90 days buys all the companies some time. I seen this one video, I think it was from, I think it was NBC or whatever. I don't really watch a lot of news websites and stuff and YouTube channels and TV or whatever, but it was about the Switch 2, so I'm like, okay, I'm interested. And it was basically like I think it's one of the guys was like an analyst of sorts or whatever. Anyways, he was being asked, about all of this kind of, situation. One of the things that stuck out to me in this video was that he mentioned that what could happen is that the U.S. administration, even if they were to proceed with these tariffs, they could exempt certain companies. So if the administration wanted to, they could say, well, Nintendo is exempt from these tariffs, meaning that's not going to, like, Nintendo can import all the Switch 2 consoles and whatever other products that they want into the US and, other places. And there's not going to be any kind of additional cost, right? There's not going to be any tariffs on them if they were to be exempted by the US administration. Now, that's one thing that could happen. People are just like, well, can't they just move production into the US? No, because as this other guy, analyst or whatever, said, it would cost Nintendo billions, probably tens of billions of dollars to set up some kind of factory, and that factory would probably take like 3, 4, 5 years to actually make. And so that's not really ideal either. So what are we left with? What does this 90 days do? This 90 days buys time. What I think, and I've said this from the start, even when it first got announced, that I think is going to happen is I think there's deals that are going to be made, right? It's more like you see things are changing on a rapid basis. And this just kind of goes to show you that things are constantly changing. So, I also watched another video from Kit and Krista. What were they saying? Well, they was talking, obviously if you don't know them, they used to work for Nintendo. So they have a lot of knowledge of, kind of what goes on in there. And, some of the stuff they were sharing was like, well, what could happen is a few different options. Nintendo could choose, because there is a little bit of a buffering kind of window, because their release date is set for June. They could choose in a worst case scenario to delay the launch for the console, right? Right now they're saying, oh, it's still on for June 5th, right? Well, Nintendo of Canada said that, pre-orders were still on for Canada last week after the US got delayed. And sure enough, last minute, they're like, well, now they're delayed in Canada too, to kind of align with the US pre-orders and whatever. So anything can change. Everything's rapidly changing. So one thing is that, right? Ken and Chris were saying like, well, maybe it can launch in September. If it launches in September, then what do you got? Well, you got the September launch window, which they got a good burst right out of the window. And then you have, 2-3 months later, around the kind of Christmas season, holiday season, you have another burst, right? So you still have a little wiggle room that you could delay the Switch 2 by a couple months. But then the question is, why would they do that? Is that a good thing? Especially with this, like I said, ever so rapidly changing landscape, it does not make sense for them to really do that. Unless there's something kind of concrete kind of put in place. Like if it was like, okay, well, this is going to happen. But here's the thing. We're currently April, 3 months, 90 days, kind of, pausing of the tariffs is going to put us in, we're April, May, June, July. That's like July, right? So what Nintendo's got to figure out something like now, prior, because June 5th is coming up soon. We have the Mario Kart World Nintendo Direct next week. Some people think that we might not get pre-orders open up until after that Direct. That's possible. I think it's also possible that we could get them any day now. I don't think it's going to be like it's going to happen just like right on the flip of a dime. I think Nintendo's probably going to give people warning. I hope they give us a warning. So I would assume that would be kind of the route they're going to go. Okay, what else? So 90 days gives them a little bit of wiggle room. Does that mean for sure like pre-orders still in? Does that still mean, the price is locked in? I think either way, whether that 90-day sort of pause was going to happen or not, I think it was likely that Nintendo was still going to probably try to go that route of, keeping the price for one. Especially, the worst thing they could do is raise the price when people are already up in arms about the price. So, and Nintendo could eat some of that cost. They can afford to do that. So you would think that they would do that, especially with how their company, used to be. Now, yeah, it's, some of the people running the company are a little bit different. But back, the days with Iwata-san, he was one who took a pay cut to make sure that he didn't have to, lay off employees and stuff. So that, hopefully there's still that kind of thinking in Nintendo. And there's a lot of guys in Nintendo that have been there for like decades, right? A lot of them that are still there. So it is possible that they're still going to have that kind of thinking. Now, another thing worth considering that Doug Bowser recently mentioned in, I think it was CNBC interview. It was like a 17-minute interview. We already discussed this. And this is something I want to bring up because there's another thing we heard about months ago, is the fact that they've been stockpiling Switch 2 stock, and that they have a bunch already shipped to the US and of course other countries as well. And here's the thing about that. There's certain companies like Apple that have been rushing. I heard that Apple apparently shipped like 5 airplanes worth of phones, of iPhones over to the US to stockpile them, to get them in before any potential tariffs get implemented. So at least they have like a stockpile already there to go. Then try, that also buys the companies time, right? Because then they can figure out, okay, we have all the stockpile that we can get through right now. This product that we can keep selling at this price point. Later on, we can, just try to figure out, what are we going to do? And so I think that's kind of what Nintendo was sort of doing and hinting at as well. And we heard this months ago that Nintendo had already been shipping out the Switch 2 units, apparently. This was before, I think, even the Switch 2 Direct got announced. I can't remember when exactly. We covered it on the channel, but it's worth noting because it seems like Nintendo has been shipping Nintendo Switch 2 consoles out for months now. So it seems like they're really, really like serious when they're saying like they're stockpiling. So you would assume that there's already a large amount of consoles in the United States. Now, what does that mean? That means that I think it's probable, especially with the 90-day pause now, combined with that fact, that we're not going to get a price increase. A lot of people, as soon as the tariffs got announced, they're freaking out. Oh, they're going to get a price increased. But even then, I don't think we were going to, because there is a stockpile, and I don't know how big. But if they've been shipping these out for months now, as we've heard, then I think that they got quite a good amount of units already in the United States and other countries as well. And so I think that kind of basically buys Nintendo some time in order to figure out what to do next, right? So I don't see a price increase increase coming at launch. I think if anything, you know, at least, you know, maybe something happens. I don't know about this. This kind of just, I'm just spitballing this off the top of my head. Maybe 6 to 12 months after launch, they figure things out. Okay, maybe we have to increase it a bit. I doubt it though, because especially with all the negativity kind of around the pricing and stuff, I don't think Nintendo wants to do anything to kind of, you know, make that situation worse. It just doesn't make sense. I think it's more probable that they would probably eat the cost. Now, is that just me being hopeful and wishful? Maybe, but I just, Nintendo was a company how they were in the past as well. I think that's the most probable thing to happen. So what does all this mean? Well, at the end of the day, I can't say. I'm not Nintendo. We don't have official news, but all I can say is that I think that 90-day window also gives Nintendo and other companies more time to stockpile even further. This, you know, if this will lead all the way into July, so we have an extra 3 months that companies can get their product into the United States and get a bigger stockpile kind of going. So I think that's probably what Nintendo's plans are going to be, is get as many units even additionally into the US ahead of time as they can, and that'll at least buy them some time. And I think that will also mean that we're not going to see a price increase, at least at launch. And I don't think it's likely even post launch, to be quite honest, because it just doesn't seem like Nintendo would go down that route. I think they would probably think it's better to just eat the cost on this one. But yeah, again, I think that's sort of why they delayed pre-orders. They're just trying to figure things out. So I would expect pre-orders to go back up soon. It could very well be that we don't have pre-orders until after the Mario Kart World Direct. That is possible. So stay tuned for that. And whenever we hear something more regarding the topic, I'll let you guys know. But I want to discuss this to give you guys some sound reasoning, I think, behind it. Hopefully it was sound reasoning, because I think there's a lot of kind of panic going on, and we just need to kind of calm down for a second, take a deep breath, and try to think through these things, you know, reasonably and logically, and figure out, you know, what is likely to happen. And I think what I presented is more than probable, but time will tell. Let me know your thoughts. If you enjoy this kind of content, like I said, stick around for more, leave a like, subscribe for more, dislike if you don't like it, and I hope to see you guys soon in another one. Tell them friends, game on. Thanks for watching.